Well, hello everyone. After a long, grueling 12 weeks, we are finally here, the grand finale. We had our final over the last week between our two finalists in Real Boxa and Raidman Muka. I'm Zotomo as always, and I'm joined by my co-host Calamity. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, and happy birthday
Thanks.
over the last week for you. Yeah, and our special guest this week is none other than Commissioner Schm1ngo himself. How are you doing?
Yes, hello, I'm fine. Thank you, and thanks for having me again.
No problem. We always like to have you on for the last week as we can get your thoughts on how not only how the final went, but how the season went overall as the organizer. So, well, let's get into this. First, let's take a look at the maps. So the final is decided on 3 maps. Each of the finalists got to pick their own map. Boxa picking Germany, Raidman picking Singapore, and an AI-generated world was the decider map for this one. Raidman picked Singapore last season, correct, Calamity?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, and of course, Boxa picking his home country of Germany for that one, which is kind of an interesting choice because of the fact that it doesn't have that much coverage. I mean, it's growing, I guess, but German coverage is quite interesting. So we're not going to reveal and spoil anything off the start. So in our show today, we're going to go one by one, and finally at the end we'll show you who exactly won. If you don't want to be spoiled at all, we will be doing a cast of these videos so you can watch it happen as the players played. So pause the video, go watch that video, which should be up at the same time as this one, and then come back and get our analysis on how the game went for it. So I'll give you a second to pause. And with that, we'll jump into our first game, which was very, very close. Calamity. Only 1 point dropped for Boxa in his home country, and Raidman 2 points. So Boxa going 1 up in Germany.
Yeah, everything's still going according to plan for Boxer here. He did pick Germany. I actually talked with Boxer a bit after he already picked his maps, but before they still played. And he was kind of just like, then after our discussion, he was kind of like, well, we didn't really surprise anyone with picks now, did we? No, not really. Raidman, as we talked before, picking Singapore as he did last season, and Boxer with his home country. It's always a bit of an interesting thing picking your home country. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a safe win, especially considering Germany isn't all that big in terms of coverage. The thing that you do have with Germany is because the only coverage is pretty much in the cities and the surrounding areas of it, you kind of have like almost entirely, you have seats that are almost entirely comprised of suburbs, where just somewhere around the big cities, but rarely ever in the city centers. So you're kind of just going around trying to find in whichever small part of a big city you end up in. And that was pretty much what we had here as well. And it was very close. Surprisingly, Raidman did very well too. But in the end, 1 point more for Boxer. It was Raidman losing 1 point each on 2 rounds, being too far away by 2 and 4 meters respectively to get a full score there. So a bit unfortunate for him. Although you have to say Boxer in that 1 round, he did drop a point. He was only 1 meter away from getting the perfect score. So very close overall.
Yeah, it is maybe worth noting that there are no draws in the final. Win's a win, no matter how many points it is by. So that single point is enough for Boxa. Schm1ngo, not a surprise here. Boxa picking up a win on his home map.
Yeah, not a real surprise, but as Calamity already said, I also think that Germany is quite a risky pick as a map for the final, because you're always spawning in an urban location. It's not really hard to find signs or information that locate you in the city that you're in. And yeah, I don't know if you have a real big advantage as a German yourself, maybe because you can read the language, you know where to find information and how to filter it out, but I don't see the very big advantage here of Boxer over Raidman on the on the Germany map. But yeah, in the end, it worked out for him. 1 point more than Raidman, and that gives him the first point of the final.
Yeah, he just needs a small margin to get the victory, and that's all he needed in this one. Let's take a little bit of closer look at the actual positions in this first map. And yeah, as you can see, very clustered around Western Germany for one. Actually, round number 2 is hidden there between 3 and 4. I had a hard time trying to get all the locations in on the map that would make it look nice. Because they are pretty crammed in there. So we'll go through these one by one real quickly. To start off with, round number 1 was just north of Mannheim, actually near a train station. So not too hard to pinpoint there, Calamity.
Yeah, the thing is, I think that one might be the most rural out of the locations. And it's pretty much just like 2 kilometers away from a city center or something, so that already tells you how Germany's seeds usually go. The annoying thing I had when I played that seed was that I never saw Mannheim mentioned anywhere. The only thing I found was a sign mentioning Ludwigshafen. And my not too extensive knowledge of Germany was enough to know that Ludwigshafen is inland and not like a lot of other cities called Hafen that are on the north coast of Germany. But I just didn't remember where inland. And if you look at the map and zoom into the place, Ludwigshafen and Mannheim, I don't know what their relationship is actually like, but just looking at the map, they kind of look like sister cities in that they're pretty much almost the same city, but just on 2 different sides of the river. Like you have that a few times in the world. And that means when you zoom in, Mannheim shows up. And to see Ludwigshafen, you have to zoom in super far. I'm assuming people probably found Mannheim somewhere. Ludwigshafen depends on if you know where it is. I think it's going to be really hard to find that otherwise. Or you just need signs for roads, basically. That would also be enough. Or maybe even the river. There's plenty of ways to do it. I just couldn't. But yeah, both
apparently,
plays.
because
Yeah, both
the
plays.
players did very well on that. So
yeah, I mean, you say they did very well. It was Raidman's worst location. He was 18 meters away. It was horrible. No, of course.
Absolutely horrible. Yeah.
Yeah, you said it relatively well, not too difficult to pinpoint. The general area was in sort of an industrial area around, like out of town. So there's not too many places you had to look for that. And I'm assuming there was ample opportunities to see the road name somewhere.
Yeah, round number 2, we moved into the cluster of the Ruhrgebiet, east of Witten, near the 44 and the 45 intersection. So that was, again, lots of probably good information, easy to find there. Schm1ngo, anything about that location that was interesting to you?
Yeah, well, that's a typical location for a seat on the German map. You're somewhere in the outskirts of the city in a residential area, but you're not too far away from a main road, so it should be possible to find all the important information there very soon if you can get out of this residential area, which sometimes is hard because the coverage can get very choppy and you can run into dead ends coverage-wise and all that stuff. But yeah, all in all, it's a very typical location, and both competitors didn't have real problems there because both got the 5,000 points.
Well, round 3, we didn't have to move very far at all, just a bit further east off the 236 and the 1 was round number 3. And Calamity, was maybe even possible if you went, you went east in round 2 and you went west in round 3, you probably saw the exact same things in the time. So
it is pretty far away. I honestly can't tell you how far you could have traveled because it's difficult for me to judge, and it's been over a week, so my path logger is gone. But I actually didn't travel that far in round 2, so I definitely wouldn't have. Round 3 was also not too difficult. Kind of just even more. I mean, it's still out in the suburbs, but a bit more central to Dortmund. And I think useful signs weren't too far away, and you also started next to I don't even know, it was some kind of shop, some gardening shop that was marked on the map, which you could use to help yourself with pinpointing. And yeah, I think if you just make your way to the next major intersection, there's going to be enough useful signs for you there. The one thing you have in Germany is that usually whenever you, I don't know if it's actually whenever you get from one suburb to the other, but quite often you just find signs that basically tell you this is the city you're in and this is the name of the suburb. Then it's just about knowing how big the city actually extends. Because, for example, like we had in round 2, that was quite far outside. And I actually spent like 2 minutes just searching for that suburb in Dortmund, but I never looked that far outside. So I just never found that. But in this case, yeah, not too difficult of a round again. And yeah, both players 1 meter away. So very, very close together for both of them there.
Well, we move into round number 4, and we were just about that far away from round number 2, but on the western side, in the south of Bochum, near the actual university, not too far away from that, but again, very near some major roads there, Schm1ngo.
Yeah, in this round, you actually just had to move 1 frame, and you had all the signs you needed, basically. Signs telling you in which city you are, signs telling you the way to the next major highway, signs telling you where the center of the city is. So yeah, that wasn't really a hard round. And still, I think this is where Boxer dropped 1 point, if I'm not wrong.
Yep, he did.
Yeah. So I don't know how he managed to do that, but yeah, maybe he got confused by something, or he went in the other direction. That could be possible. But yeah, I think in this location you had everything you need right at the start.
Yeah, it's actually, I can explain that a bit, because the map actually doesn't line up with what you see in Street View here. Because if you look at Street View, you see that if you look south, you spawn at the western edge of a building. And the actual location on the map is at the eastern edge of the building. So Boxer guessed where Street View basically showed him, and Raidman actually guessed in a very similar location, but just, luckily was 4 meters closer. So that was a case of, again, Google Street View and the map just sort of being slightly off compared to each other, which, on world maps usually isn't that big of a case. You've got 100 meters and more of leeway, but on like smaller national maps like these, it can really mess you up. And in this case, lucky for Boxer that he still managed to win it in the end, because I don't know if he would have been, but I would have surely been annoyed if I had lost like that.
Well, into round number 5, we actually finished on the number 1 highway outside of Bremen, very close to an exit, which probably had all the information they needed for that one, Calamity.
Yeah, but you can really see how both of them absolutely wanted to make sure to get a full 5K there, which again was difficult considering you were just on a highway and you were close to a resting area where you had a road going off, but you were still sort of far enough away from that you can't really be 100% sure if you've got the right place. Me going through the game, I was like, okay, we're sort of just about here. Yes, I got a 5K, was 15 meters away, which is actually very interesting now that I see that. Because I, for round 5, was 15 meters away and got 5,000 points. And Boxer was 15 meters away in round 4 and got 4,999. So I never thought about that before, but that must mean that Geoguessr even goes down further to the decimal points to decide whether you get 5,000 points or not.
Yeah,
it doesn't just go off of
guess.
meters. That's an interesting revelation. But anyway, yeah, you barely had to move off the start. You moved a bit, and there were signs of the highway exits. I think it was 54 Bremen-Mahndorf. And then you just go to Bremen and look at the highway exits, and there it is. And yeah, then you're just pinpointing for a bit until you're at least semi-confident or the 3 minutes run out, which is probably more likely to be the case.
Yeah, very nice. Well, yeah, slim margins indeed. Dropping points within a meter of the actual location is enough to cost you a point here or there. But Boxer does come out on top in his own map of Germany. Well, let's take a look then at the second map, how that one went in Singapore. And just like last season, both players getting a perfect score, given how tiny the little nation is. And that means it was decided by total distance away from the locations. And Raidman takes the win on that one, Schm1ngo.
Yeah, just the same as for Germany, basically. Also, this is a very interesting map choice. I mean, Raidman had it already in the last season, but I'm really curious I would like to know why he chose Singapore, because it's also like a country map which is fairly easy, and I don't think you can have a lot of knowledge advantage over other players there, because it's usually very easy to find helpful signs or helpful information to make you being able to pinpoint your location. So yeah, very risky choice, but once again it worked out for Raidman.
Yeah, Calamity?
Yeah, I think the main reason why you would choose Singapore is if you are extremely confident in your pinpointing. If you're going to say, it doesn't matter if my opponent finds all the rounds, I'm going to find all the rounds as well, and I'm going to pinpoint better. That's basically why you would choose Singapore, in my opinion. And if you are that good at pinpointing, I think it's a good choice. Of course, you could think about which countries or where do I maybe have more of an advantage in getting the win just based on points. But I think for players like Raidman and Boxer, you're gonna struggle to find a country where you're so confident that you're very good at it and your opponent isn't. That I think Singapore makes sense in this case. He could have maybe chosen something like Poland, but then again, Raidman probably doesn't know the specialties of Boxer. Maybe Boxer's very good at Poland as well, and because Boxer's only been in Reddit League for one season. So I guess Raidman just went with what are my strengths and where am I confident that I can do it? And he's already won Singapore last season. Got to correct you there for a bit, Zotomo. Simi actually didn't get a perfect score last season. He dropped a couple points on a highway. So I think that's mainly why he went with it. And yeah, paid off for him, even though in this case, it was a lot closer still than last season by only 5 meters separating the two of them.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought that Simi was able to put up a perfect score, but again, it's been a while, and it is. They were very, very close, at least in that one. Yeah, so let's take a look at the locations for that Singapore. Round number 1, we were on Bishan Street 11 at the intersection, just east of the CTE. So how Singapore is so small, we're going to give lots of road names because the road names are actually quite helpful. They're often named after the district in this map. So that's what the players are definitely going to be looking for more than any other thing when they spawn into the rounds. So yeah, Schm1ngo, round number 1, pretty straightforward, especially being close to an interchange is always nice.
Yeah, sure. I can't really say much about the location because yeah, it's just located somewhere in the north of the city. You have basically all the information's nearby, and it's also not too hard to pinpoint because you're not like in one of these very small back streets or on a large highway or something like that. You have like a junction right next to you which you can use for pinpointing, so pretty straightforward, I would say.
Yeah. Round 2 was on Leong Se Street, near Victoria Street and Rochor Road. About as downtown as you can get for Singapore. It's a pretty dense city, but there is sort of a more shopping commercial area. And we were smack dab on one of those little small side roads, Calamity. It's a little bit challenging, but again, major roads not too far away.
Yeah, the one annoying in quotation marks part about the center of Singapore is that none of the roads are named after where they are. They've all just got their unique names. But even then, it's fairly obvious if you just look around a bit that you have to be in the city center, which at least then narrows down your search radius a lot. And if you just walk north a bit, you'll find North Bridge Road. And I then walked west to find Middle Road. And at that point, you can just look through the, I don't know, like 2 square kilometers of Singapore and just find out where you are. It wasn't too difficult to pinpoint, but I didn't find any of the restaurants that were around there in Street View on the map. They were all just called something different now. I don't know Let me actually check that. How old is the Street View coverage of that? It is actually pretty recent. It's only a year old, so I'm surprised at how pretty much none of it matches up. But still, you had the side roads there, and with those side roads, it was fairly obvious where you had to be.
Yeah, it is really interesting that all these restaurants are named something different on the map. So not quite. I guess restaurants change quite a lot in Singapore for that location. Yeah. Well, round number 3 saw us on a major highway right next to one of the big parks that is in sort of the northern western area in the Lorne Highway, right next to Ritchie Reservoir Park. So again, a major highway can be both good and bad, Schm1ngo, in terms of pinpointing.
Yeah, but in this case, I think it wasn't too bad because you spawned right next to an exit, and you also have a sign right at your spawning location, which gives you the name of the nearby highway. It gives you the name of the nearby road and also of the neighborhood you're in. So not too hard either, this location.
Round 4 saw us head a little bit further west, but again, not too far from a major road. We were on, or just off, the Jinjurong Kachil, and very close to a major intersection of quite a few major roads, including Bukit Timah and the PIE, which are all pretty easy to find and easily recognizable to anybody who's played Singapore before, Calamity.
Yeah, just for you, JLN stands for Jalan, which just means road in
Jalan.
Indonesian, I guess. I don't know. Does Singapore have its own national language?
Singaporean? I don't know.
I don't think so. Either way, not too difficult of a location. It depends a bit on where you went. But if you, for example, walked north, you could find streets named after the district of Bukit Batok. If you went south, you probably made it to a major intersection with some highways. So then it just comes down to how long did it take you to get there? Do you know where those districts are? And can you place your pin at the right location? And this one, again, not too difficult. You spawned right in front. Let me actually check if that building is, if there's some indication. It doesn't look like it actually from Street View. Doesn't look like, because the POI for the building in Google Maps says Vets for Life Animal Clinic. There's not really a building that looks like an animal clinic there. But I guess if you've got the time, and both of them did take about 2.5 minutes. So I'm assuming they were just either counting houses from a side street or from the end of a street or something like that to pinpoint, because again, not really a problem for both of them. And until this point, it was actually Boxer still who was leading by 1 meter going into the last round.
I see, very interesting. Yeah, the official language of Singapore is Malay, but Chinese and English are also major languages that are used.
Yeah,
so probably in Malay. Yeah. Round 5 then saw us on a highway again on the SLE between Upper Thompson Road and I can't even read my own handwriting. Here we go. Lentor Avenue. So that was, again, 2 exits not too far away, but on an open highway, Schm1ngo, it can be a bit tricky, and it did prove to be quite the difference. Both of them getting 5Ks, but Boxa just a bit further off here.
Yeah, I think this was the hardest location of the seed to pinpoint. As you said, the exits are not too far away. You can see one exit right from the start, but still it's hard to really pinpoint this very accurate within 15 meters range. Both managed to do that, but Boxer was 9 meters away from the original location, while Reitman was only 4 meters away.
Mm-hmm.
So that is basically what decided this seat in favor of Reitman. And you can also see that this was the hardest location, as both players took the whole 3 minutes for this location.
Yeah, it's worth noting that they were even under 2 minutes for a few locations in that one. So they were definitely not needing the full time to pinpoint those locations. But that last one, they wanted to make sure they got, and it pays off for Raidman there with his win. So After 2 maps, both players take their own map, and it's 1-1, and we go into the final map, the Decider AI-generated world, which, of course, as we talked about in the kind of playoffs, is very, very tricky. But I don't know. I think you guys would, for me at least, I didn't think it was that rough of a seed, as we'll take a look at their scores. And Raidman pulls it out with a perfect score, and Boxa only dropping a single point. Calamity.
Yeah, it wasn't the easiest seed for me. So I was kind of surprised. I mean, I obviously expected both of them to do very well, but I was kind of surprised that they both got that good scores. 3 of the rounds were relatively simple, but it was just 2 of them where I personally didn't find any useful information whatsoever. Where it was fairly obvious, of course, to tell which country you're in, but even narrowing down the region wasn't too easy. And I'm not even going to speak about pinpointing. But in the end, Raidman got it. He was not exactly on the spot for one location where he was 60 meters off, but everything else he pretty much managed to pinpoint within the 3 minutes. And Boxer had a few locations where he just ran out of time. He was 90 meters away in the first one, 177, and therefore just outside the perfect score range on the second one, and then 40 meters around that on the fourth and the fifth one. So I think in this case, it was just a matter of Boxer maybe needing half a minute more to really get that perfect score in, get the assurances that he would have needed to challenge Raidman. But Raidman managed to do it and managed to win the game because of it.
Oh, Schm1ngo, it sounds like that pedigree of Raidman having 3 seasons in Division 1 really paying off. Used to that 3-minute timer, not wasting a single second of that gives him the win there.
Yeah, probably. But actually, both did a really great job on the seed. There were some pretty tricky locations, as we will see soon. And we can also see that 10 other Reddit League players tried to play the seed, and only one came close to their scores, with Max FI scoring 24,997. All the other players got below 24,700 points. So that really shows how well both of them did there.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, very nice. Well, let's take a look at those locations for that final map here. And pretty much a European and, well, North American seed at least. Round 1, we started off in Louisiana on State Highway number 1, southwest of New Orleans. Calamity.
Yeah, and round 1 was probably the easiest round of them all, at least for me. There were signs with the Louisiana state outline on them pretty close to the start, and there were also some other signs pointing you towards some of the other towns in that general area, as well as the State Highway 1, which made it pretty obvious of where you have to be. And considering you were also just in the center of a American town, it's never too hard to pinpoint there. You've got plenty of road names around. You were between 10th and 11th Street. And the actual location was a bit tricky to get really perfect on, as both Raidman and Boxer weren't at exactly the right place. Raidman 70 meters, Boxer was like one side street over to the west. But yeah, I would have been surprised if either of them had dropped any points here.
Round number 2 saw us head all the way across the world to Bulgaria, and very close to the Turkish border, in fact. But again, I think we were on the 761, and we were very close to the 7 and the 760, 76, sorry, the 76, which kind of makes sense given how the numbering system in Bulgaria works, right? That the 76 is close to the 761. For that one, Schm1ngo.
Yeah, that's the location where Boxer dropped the crucial point. He just guessed one curve further north than he should have done, and that was 177 meters away. It cost him the point and also the final, or the championship title in this case. I can't really say how hard or not hard this location is because I haven't properly played it through. I don't know how far you have to go until you find some information, or if you can even make it to the 76 in time. But just by the looks of it, for me, it looks like I would have dropped 1,000 points there, because it's very rural. It's, as you said, close to the Turkish border, and I assume that there's not much information around.
Yeah, if I can
Oh.
just
Mhm.
add on to that, because I played the seed. So I think I walked south until the split with the 559, and there were signs for two of the smaller cities in the area, for Ustrem and Kniazevo. But neither of them really show up unless you zoom pretty far in. And to add on to
Yeah.
that, I was looking for the wrong one out of the two, for which you have to zoom even further, but that's just the one that was further away from the sign, so that's what you usually want to look for. I think if you went north, you would have had enough time to make it to the 76. I can't say for sure whether there's much useful information there, probably more useful information than what I found. But yeah, for Boxer there, I think this is really, as I mentioned earlier, just a sign of a lack of time here, as his pin position doesn't make much sense with the road direction. So that's for me just clear indication. Okay, he just would have needed 10, 15 seconds more to just check the road direction again and be perfect. But yeah, just ran out of time there maybe, which is actually curious because he had 15 seconds left and guessed 15 seconds early. So I don't know what his thought process was there. If he checked for something else, maybe he checked for the river and how far away he is to that. I don't know. He can tell us if he watches this. But yeah, it's the first real mistake from Boxer there.
Yeah, at the junction with the 76, there are some street signs with town directions and distances. So if you were able to get there, a bit of information for the players to pick up in that one. Round number 3 saw us head almost smack dab in between Milan and Turin in the northwest of Italy. We were near a couple major highways, but again, given an AI map, we were actually on a very, very small road, kind of surrounded by bigger roads. We were near the National Road 11, 143, A4, and the E25. All of them quite a ways away. Maybe the 11 or the 143 was the easiest ones to get to for them here, Schm1ngo.
Yeah, this is also a tough location, I would say. It's hard to really get to a bigger road here. I think at the start you can only go in one direction. That makes it maybe a little bit easier. But still, yeah, Italy in general is a not really easy country. Even if you get to a bigger road, you probably will just find signs to nearby smaller towns. And if you don't know them, then you're sometimes very screwed. So yeah, but both got the full score here, so they didn't seem to have big problems, but they both used the full 3 minutes for that.
Yeah. In town, if you were able to just pick the right road every single time, which of course can be very tricky, there were plenty of good signs for small towns and big towns, as well as the major roads. So information within reach, but definitely probably needed that full 3 minutes just to make it into town at all and navigate to the major road there. Well, round number 4 saw us head back in Mexico way, just south of Tijuana, on the 10, pretty near the coast, Calamity.
Yeah, a typical sort of Baja California location, a very bright, sort of dry location, Mexican, relatively obvious once you see any street signs. And Nuevo was in quite a few places. Might have took you until getting into the city or getting to a highway sign until you realize, okay, that's definitely the name of the town. Then there were some good signs that pointed you in different directions. I think it's south pointed you towards Ensenada, and north probably towards Rosarito. I don't know if there was a sign for Tijuana as well. But yeah, it wasn't too difficult to find the town. But for me, it was then pretty difficult to pinpoint the actual location because there's about 10 side roads that run parallel to each other pretty much, and there's no street names anywhere. So pretty much all you can do is try and go north, go south, and try and figure out if you hit any dead ends or if you hit any curves, and try and match those up with what you can see on the map.
And to finish off round number 5, we were in France, just west of Dijon. Maybe it's kind of hard to judge the distances again, but you might have been able to make a couple major roads. Probably the most important one, the A38. Schm1ngo.
Yeah, in this round, I think if you're able to get down to Schm1ngo or somewhere in this area that's close to the A38, then you can get some pretty good signs probably pointing you towards Dijon. Together with some area codes probably you can pick up along the way, you know, in which area to search. And yeah, then I think it's doable, but still it's rural France. And if you go the wrong way or just pick a wrong turn, you can land somewhere where you won't find anything. And that's always a risk in France.
Yeah, I mean, there is a couple France series going on in the Reddit, given that it is the Tour de France. So maybe these players have been practicing quite a bit of France in that, and something like a seed popping up in their final was probably, maybe they familiar with the location or the area. So playing in other competitions, maybe paying off a bit in that one. Well, very nice. Well, that was how everything unfolded. If you want to see exactly how the players found those locations, not just our speculation about how that might happen and our own views, please check out the cast that we have up on the channel and watch all of that in its full detail. And we'll see you over there. And before we go, though, we've got to sit down and have a little bit of chat about how the season went with you, Schm1ngo. So, Calamity, I will give you the first question. Fire away.
Yeah, let's just start by talking a bit about the past season. Sort of, did it go as you expected? Did you have any surprises, any disappointments in the season? Not only limited to players, but you want to mention any of those as well, but also to general organization. Maybe you want to talk about sort of the increase in red cards, something like that. Anything you'd like to mention?
Yeah, so all in all, I'm pretty happy with how the season went. We had a good competition, intense battles for promotion and relegation in basically all the divisions, and also I really like the maps that we played that the random number generator picked this time. I think it was a good balance between some easy and some hard countries, like we had Belgium on the more easier scale, but also countries like Cambodia, for example. Yeah, regarding surprises and disappointments, let's start with the surprises. I would say that the newcomers once again really put in stunning performances throughout all the divisions. I mean, Boxer almost got the championship title in the first season, but also Schm1ngo and Orpheus didn't have to fight against relegation to Division 2 in their first season in the Reddit League, so they did pretty well as well. And in Division 2, we had Cameron, who was in the promotion zone for almost the whole season. In Division 3, we had Shumi, who smashed the whole competition there and got promoted. So yeah, the newcomers did pretty well once again. And yeah, that's for me the biggest surprise, you could say. Yeah, as you already mentioned, the number of disqualifications, they were pretty high this season. We had 7 disqualifications, while we had, I think, 2 of them last season, or 1 or 2, something like that. And yeah, quite surprisingly, it wasn't like newcomers getting disqualified, but mostly it were like established players, people who had been around since season 1. And yeah, that's a bit disappointing, of course. But I hope that this will change in the next season, and I hope that this is not some sign of fatigue setting in for the players that have been on board for a while now.
Yeah, there's a lot of new players. You added a whole new division. We had Division 5 and 2 groups in Division 5 as well. So 20 extra players just in there. Do you think that the expansion, not only to 1 or 2 more players in each of the other divisions, but a whole new division, how did that go, in your opinion?
Well, I think it went pretty fine. The players in Division 5 also had a good competition there. And yeah, I think they also had a lot of fun. Skill-wise, I think it was pretty, yeah, it was, I don't know, it was a good decision to put in another division, I think. But now as we are 76 players, I think this would be probably the maximum for the Reddit League as for now. Next season might be the first time where we actually can't allow every player in who made it through the preseason. Well, that depends, of course, on how many people re-sign up and how many newcomers will sign up and all that stuff. But yeah, I think in general, it's not a good idea to try to make the league bigger and bigger because at some point there will be just a too high fluctuation of players maybe, and also promotion or relegation battles between 6th, 7th, or 8th division might just not be really interesting anymore to many people. And also for you guys, it would be a lot more work to cast all these matches and to cover all the divisions in the weekly show. So yeah, I think more than 5 divisions isn't really necessary as of now.
Yeah, so you mentioned not more than 5 divisions, but what about, I mean, obviously not for next season, and I doubt we'll get that many applicants. I'm probably expecting about 30 to 40 again, which will then probably mean 20, 25 people will play all of the legs. I think we'll probably have to reject 5 to 10 players, depending, as you said, on how many re-sign up. But have you thought about what if in the future, it keeps more and more players keep noticing it, and we have like 100 signups eventually? Have you thought like maybe not, obviously not adding new divisions because of the reasons you mentioned earlier, but maybe expanding current ones, like we have currently a and B division in 4 and 5? Maybe add a B division for Division 3, or add a C division for 4 and 5? Or are you just of the opinion that if we have 100 players and only the 5 places or 10 places, then only the best players out of those 100 can get in, and everyone will just have to try again at another point?
Well, I think C divisions, as we just call them now, could become a thing in the future at some point, maybe. But yeah, it really depends on how the interest in the league is growing. Maybe there will be a new Geoguessr hype in a year or so, and we will have really, really many new applicants, and then we, probably have to think about what we can do with them. But yeah, I think as of now, we should stick to A and B divisions and not overcomplicate everything.
Yeah. The only thing I can really think of that might be of interest here is there any kind of plans or kind of even notions of maybe changing the map seeds for the future? I mean, because I know you have like, there's an American seed or Americas, there's a worldwide Europe, that kind of thing. But any thoughts of maybe changing where the maps are drawn from, those pools changing in the future?
Not really, actually. So this season we implemented a new map pool with the continental maps. I think that went also pretty well. I think people like that. It's like 1 week more where you have to practice less, I would say. Keeps a little bit the pressure on a lower level. But yeah, I haven't really thought about new map pools or changing the system as it is right now, crucially. But we will definitely have, I think, a second Africa map next season. I think that, yeah, as we had a second Asia map last season and the second Americas map this season, I think next season we will have a second Africa map. But yeah, that's basically it for now.
Okay. Calamity?
Yeah, one more thing about the preseason format. As people who've been watching might remember, I think I mentioned that a few times at the start of the season, but haven't in quite a while. We changed that this year to not only include world maps anymore, but also throw in some of the country maps we played last season. Do you think that was a good change? Do you think it went well? And is it fine the way it currently is? Or do you think there's still work to be done on optimizing that preseason?
I think there's nothing much to change about the preseason format as it is right now. There might be still room for improvement, of course, but I think it works well enough as it is. And not just for seeding the players into divisions, but also as some sort of a reliability test. Yeah, as you said, we implemented the country maps into the preseason, which is a good thing because the players get to know how it is to play in the Reddit League, not just playing worldwide maps, but also having to practice for the countries itself. And I think that really prepares them throughout those 5 weeks. And one thing we are actually going to change for next season is that we will shift the sign-up dates for the established players to before the start of the preseason, so that we can give all the new players who sign up for the preseason a perspective on how many spots in which divisions they will be able to qualify for. So that's something new, but it's rather a minor change.
A good minor change, though.
Yeah, sounds good for that. That's pretty much everything I really had. Just any final comments, anything you want to tell the viewers as well as the players about the Reddit League and what we could maybe expect, or maybe the timeline for when is season 4 coming?
I think I posted the timeline in the last Reddit post. I'm not sure about the exact dates right now, but there will be basically a 3 or 4 week break until the re-sign up will start for the established players. Afterwards, the sign up for the new players will start, and then we'll have the 5 weeks of preseason, 1 week off, which I will use to set up everything for the regular season, and then the regular season will start around I think October. I'm not quite sure, maybe end of September, something like that. So yeah, that's the plan for season 4. Apart from that, I would like to thank everyone once again who participated. I would like to thank Radox and Calamity, who helped me throughout the season as my co-hosts, and also, of course, Zotomo and Calamity once again, and all the other people who were featured on the show for all the cast and the Reddit League show, which really added a lot to this tournament. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for hosting it, for sure. Calamity, anything from you?
I'm not sure. I definitely enjoyed the season again, even though, yeah, I did more practice than in the first 2 seasons. So I noticed as well now what some people noticed at the end of season 2, where during the last 1-2 weeks you kind of almost hit a bit of a burnout of where you're like, I've now practiced for 11 weeks, practiced for countries I'm going to play, because sometimes even in the weeks where okay, next week we're going to play world map, you might already be looking ahead at the next country map coming up and might be starting practice for that. But I definitely feel like adding another continent map into that was a good decision. And I've taken down like 2 points that we're going to discuss internally then in the committee. I'm going to mention that. I'm going to send you those afterwards, Schm1ngo. But yeah, I think apart from that, looking forward to next season, but also looking forward to the break now.
Yeah, I need to refresh my own video editing mind, because we did so many videos for this one with a whole nother division going with that. But it was definitely a fun ride. It was amazing. Of course, I'm still way down in Division 4, but I'm just happy to be playing and just casting these games. It's a wonderful format. I think it really lends itself to the kind of the whole video commentary kind of setup, given that it is a head-to-head matchup for these. So yeah, well, thank you all for watching as well. It's been an amazing season. And again, congrats to Raidman for taking the crown on the second time of asking. And good luck defending it. Maybe we can have a returning champ for the first time in Reddit League history come next season. Yeah, so everybody keep an eye out on the Reddit for those kind of information as we get closer to the preseason start, and of course the start of the regular season, as Schm1ngo said, sometime in October. In the meantime, check out the Reddit anyways. There's plenty of other competitions going. Formula G is about to start. We're going to kind of shifting our gears here in the esports channel over to that as well. Yeah, and we'll see you in some of those videos, and hopefully we get to see you guys all in those competitions as well. And take care.
Bye.
Bye.